Selamat sejahtera. My name is Tanzi and today I'll present a topic, Initial IMO Strategy on Reduction of GHG Emissions from Ships. Let us start from introduction, and this is some topic that we will discuss in intro, which is what is IMO, what is Marpol, what is GHG, and emission scenarios. So, what is IMO? IMO is stand for International Maritime Organization, which is the United Nations specialized agency responsible for safe, secure, and efficient shipping and the prevention of pollution from ships. Then, what is MARPOL? MARPOL is actually stand for International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships. It is the principal global standard for the prevention of marine pollution by ships caused by operational or accidental incidents. IMO adopted the Marpol Convention on November 2nd, 1973. So let us move to the third part. What is GHG? GHG stand for greenhouse gas. It's a category of gases that absorb heat energy emitted from the planet's surface, and they will remain in the Earth's atmosphere for a long time. Even though they are just made up from a small portion of atmosphere, maybe less than 1% of all air molecules, but GHG absorb a significant amount of heat energy and re-radiate some of it back toward the surface. They called as greenhouse gases because they trap heat near the Earth's surface in a manner somewhat similar to how a greenhouse allowed in the sun rays, and they hold in resulting heat. There's some example about GHG gas, which is carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and halogen gas, which halogen gas may be fluorine, chlorine. Now let us move to the last part of introduction, emissions and emission scenarios. The third IMO GHG study, 2014, has estimated that GHG emissions from international shipping in 2012 accounted for some 2.2% of anthropogenic carbon dioxide emissions, and that such emissions could grow by between 50% and 250% by 250. Future IMO GHG studies would help reduce the uncertainties associated with these emission estimated and scenarios. For the part vision and initial IMO strategy, IMO remains committed to reducing GHG emissions from international shipping and as a matter of urgency, aims to phase them out as soon as possible, while promoting in the context of this strategy a just and equitable transition. For level and ambition, there are four levels of ambition, and the first one would be carbon intensity of the ship to decline through implementation of further phases of the Energy Efficiency Design Index, which is EEDI, for new ships. The second level would be carbon intensity of international shipping to decline. It is to reduce carbon dioxide emissions per transport work as an average across international shipping by at least 40% by 2030 compared to 2008. The third level would be uptake of zero or near zero GHG emission technologies, fuels, and/or energy sources to represent at least 5% striving for 10% of the energy used by international shipping by 2030. The last level would be GHG emissions from international shipping to reach net zero. Let us move to the guiding principle. The implementation of this strategy is navigated by several core principles to ensure it is both fair and effective. We follow the principle of no more favorable treatment, meaning the rule applies equally to every ship regardless of where it is from. This is the first principle of non-discrimination. The second principle would be principle of CBDRRC. We honor the climate principle of common but differentiated responsibilities. This acknowledges that while we are all share the burden, nations have different capabilities and historical responsibilities. The third principle would be requirement of implementation. There is a strict requirement for all ships, regardless of their flag, to fully implement these mandatory measures and no exception. The third principle would be impacts of states. We must carefully consider how these rules affect developing countries, especially LDCs and small island developing states, addressing their specific emerging needs. The last principle would be decision-making approach. Finally, our decisions must be based on solid evidence, balanced with a precautionary approach to protect the marine environment even when scientific data is not yet absolute. For the launch projects and measures, the IMO strategy adopted in 2018 introduced several practical and enforcement measures under Marpol, Annex VI, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from international shipping. First, technology and operational measures were implemented. This include the Energy Efficiency Design Index, which is EEDI, for new ships, and the Energy Efficiency Existing Ship Index, which is EEXI, for existing ship. Both measures ensure that ships meet minimum energy efficiency standard through improved design and engine performance. In addition, the carbon intensity indicator, or we call CII, was introduced to monitor ships' annual operational efficiency. Ships are rated from A to E, and those with poor performance are required to take corrective actions. This encourages ship operators to continually improve fuel efficiency. Another measure would be Ship Energy Efficiency Management Plan, or we call SEEMP. This plan guides ship owners in managing fuel consumption and reducing emission through better operational practice. The second category, the IMO have launched a fuel oil consumption data collection system in 2019. This system collects data from ships above 5,000 gross tonnage and provide a reliable basis for monitoring emissions and supporting future policies. Finally, several capacity building and cooperation projects were introduced. This include GHG Trust Fund, the GHG Smart Program, and the Integrated Technology Cooperation Program, which help developing countries implement IMO GHG measures effectively. For the part challenges and future study, one major challenge is the limited availability and high cost of low and zero carbon fuels, as well as the difficulty of retrofitting existing ships. There are also concerns about unequal impacts of developing countries, especially least developed countries and small island developing states. Therefore, the IMO emphasized future study and continuous improvement. This includes future study on alternative fuels such as hydrogen and ammonia, the development of life cycle assessment methods, and the study of market-based measures like carbon pricing. Overall, this shows that the initial IMO strategy is a dynamic framework that will be strengthened over time. This is the references for my assignment. There are 5 references here. In conclusion, the initial IMO strategy on the reduction of greenhouse gases emissions from shipping represents an important global effort to address climate change in the maritime sector. Though Marpol annexed VI, the IMO introduced key regulatory and operational measures such as EEDI, EEXI, and the carbon intensity indicator, supported by data collection systems and international cooperation projects. Although there are challenges related to technology, cost, and unequal impacts on developing countries, the strategy provides a strong foundation for continuous improvement. Overall, the initial IMO strategy demonstrates that IMO is committed to achieving long-term decarbonization of international shipping through innovation, collaboration, and progressive regulation. That's all for my presentation. Thank you.